All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Jaron Ennis, who once again, his team is pushing to get the Errol Spence Jr. fight next. Recent interview just came out with Bozy Ennis, who talks about what is going on with the IBF. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division, where we are waiting to see what is going to happen next for the titles in that division. Just recently, the WBC had ordered Errol Spence Jr. to defend his title, his WBC title, and as a result, all of the other ones that he has against Keith Thurman. However, not so quick, as the IBF has now again been petitioned to force the fight with Errol Spence Jr. and Jaron Ennis next. Now, before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also, I want to say thank you to the supporters of the channel. Specifically, this video will be dedicated to Rip Jones. Thank you, sir, for continually being in the live streams that we do every day. The way that you support when you can, and the super chats and the Cash App really does make a big difference to the channel, as well as everybody that comes in videos like this and supports through the super thanks, which is a little heart and a dollar sign, because that is, how you're actually able to, support the content creators on YouTube, whether it's me or somebody else that is available to you. But at the very least, hit that like button if you like the video, or hit the thumb downs if you don't like it. Engagement is a way to support as well. But let's get into this. Bozy Ennis gave an interview on YSM Sports Media. I'm a big fan of YSM Sports Media, especially for news related to Jaron Ennis, who, in my opinion, is one of the best fighters in the world. I know there are many people out there that say, hey, he has not proven it yet, and that is all fine and dandy. However, what he is definitely trying to do is get the opportunity to prove it. Right now in the welterweight division, he is in the top 3 of every, or 4 of every major sanctioning body. He is the IBF mandatory for Errol Spence Jr., as well as being, and I've done a video about this, not too far off from being the mandatory for Terrence Crawford for that WBO belt. The problem is, though, that the WBC has already ordered Errol Spence Jr. to fight Keith Thurman. Now, Bozy Ennis, who was the trainer and the father of Jaron Ennis, had said in the past that he had submitted a petition for the IBF to enforce the mandatory against Errol Spence. The logic being that Errol Spence has not defended his IBF belt against a mandatory in 4 years. The last time that he did it was against Carlos Ocampo. But since that point in time, he has not defended it. He also makes mention of that there is a fighter named Abu Karov, who was the mandatory as well for Errol Spence. But when he lost to Cody Crowley, Errol Spence Jr. was not forced to fight either him or Cody Crowley. And actually, the mandatory did not pass to Abu Karov did not pass to Crowley, Cody Crowley. As a result of beating Abu Karov, it wound up being where Jaron Ennis becomes the mandatory. So Bozy Ennis has said again that he has submitted another petition to try to get the IBF to order that mandatory. Now, my take on the matter is that I don't think it is going to matter how many times he petitions it. They are probably not going to do that because, again, the WBC already issued their mandatory. Also, you have the WBA, who had at one point had said that their mandatory was before the WBCs, and consequently before the IBFs, and they went and ordered the mandatory fight with Stanionis and Virgil Ortiz. So it seems to me as if the other sanctioning bodies, at least in some way, and this is just what it seems to me, spoke with one another and kind of worked out what the situation was going to be between them. And the WBC fight with Keith Thurman is the mandatory that seems like it's up next. Now, that does not mean that all is lost for Jaron Ennis as far as getting a championship fight. I think because of what the WBA did, with Stanionis and Virgil Ortiz, that's going to open up that next mandatory that will be able to be enforced. I think that's going to open it up with the WBO, because as of right now, if you look at the rankings, Virgil Ortiz is number 1, Jaron Ennis is number 2, Keith Thurman is number 3, and Conor Benn is number 4. Virgil Ortiz, by fighting, as long as the fight happens with Stanionis, he's either going to become the WBA champion, which will take him out of the rankings for the WBO, or he'll lose to Amanda Stanionis, which will make him drop in the WBO rankings below Jaron Ennis, and as a result, Jaron Ennis will be in position to be the mandatory for the WBO. Now, the mandatory WBO also, which they do a fairly good job of making sure that the person has that mandatory within a reasonable amount of time. I do believe, though, that it was a couple years for Terrence Crawford, though, with the WBO, and I think he might have only done that once, which was in his last fight versus Sean Porter. However, he has 18 months from that point in time to do the mandatory, and that is up in May, which I do believe will be before Errol Spence Jr. is able to fight Jaron Ennis as the IBF mandatory, because again, there's a chance that the WBA mandatory, which would either be Virgil Ortiz or Stanionis, depending on whether it passes through to Ortiz if he wins, will be after the WBC. So, I understand like the frustration with Jaron Ennis and his camp about getting the shot at the title shot, having, all of this time, like the whole second half of the year held up with, everybody wondering, when the Errol Spence Jr. Terrence Crawford fight was going to take place. However, I don't think these guys are going to be very, very far off at all from getting a championship shot. I just think it's probably going to be, that WBO shot, and not the IBF. That's just the feeling that I get. And on top of that, if the IBF didn't respond to the first petition that they sent, then I'm not sure what's going to make them respond to the second petition that they sent, other than just to say, okay, hey, no. But, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate for Jaron that all of the stuff going on with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford has locked up those fights, because I'm sure those sanctioning bodies, have agreed with one another, or they did, at least at a high level, that they wanted to work together to allow there to be undisputed champions in the division, so where there could be unifications of belts. And it seemed like they allowed that to take the forefront, over the last year. Now, as far as Keith Thurman, they did make Bozy Ennis did make a good point about how Keith Thurman had jumped to the top of the rankings in the WBC. But I think that there's an argument for that, because he had voluntarily relinquished his WBC belt before, because he had a lengthy layoff. And as a result, the WBC may actually, owe him something by saying, hey, thank you very much for having worked with us by relinquishing your belt and allowing us to allow other people to fight for it. And it may be just a little bit of a payback from them to Keith Thurman to allow him to get up there. But anyway, it is what it is. That's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.